you've probably seen this frog. They're very funny and very flat, and they've become a bit of a meme since around 2014. You know, the It's Wednesday, my dudes. You know, that one. But my question is there something more to this species? Do they secretly have something very interesting going on? Turns out, yes. So, although their anatomy is of course very funny looking to most people, if you know frogs, they're a little less novel. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're still of course very silly. I mean, look at that. But I mean, to me, they just kind of look like a Pac-Man frog, or like a Peepa Peepa toad, or like a mixture between a Pac-Man frog and a Peepa Peepa toad, or like a mix between a bullfrog and an African clawed frog. But it turns out their hyoid bone has something going on that none of these guys have in common. So the hyoid bone is, if you put your hand under your chin right here, when you move around your tongue, it's the bone that you feel moving around. The hyoid bone is actually completely independent of any bones. That's something completely unique to it. It's held in place by muscles coming from all directions, and is mostly there to give your tongue increased mobility and to help with swallowing. That's the hyoid. But what about the hyoid in Budget's frogs? In frogs as a whole, they differ quite a bit from our hyoids. Frogs have very different tongues as a whole. They function kind of like a sticky trapdoor that flops upwards and out rather than the chameleon-like tongue you'll commonly see depicted. It's as a result of their distinct hyoid bone that is fused with their skull. Their hyoid bone is fused with what's called a hyalia. Basically, when a tadpole first comes out of the egg, they already have a hyoid bone in their mouths with surrounding tissue, that's called the hyalia, made of cartilage. But as their metamorphosis occurs, the hyalia ossifies, or rather, it slowly turns to bone. However, where Budget's frogs differ from most is what happens next. As they turn into adults, the cartilage that they formed as their hyoid bone fuses with their skull, which is called the larval pars reunions, disconnects from the skull and becomes rod-like side extensions of the hyoid bones. Usually, in frogs, the larval pars reunions just shrinks into adulthood. But the Budget's frog seems to need it for something else. It's probably necessary to reinforce their jaw and hyoid, since splitting the hyoid down the middle definitely sacrifices some structural integrity. But what is the evolutionary advantage of having a split hyoid bone? Well, it's very similar to how the mandibles of a snake are also split in two. Bone can be a major limiting factor when it comes to food, since it tends to cap the size of prey to whatever fits a small hole that can easily open and close. But when the mandibles are separate, the skin between can stretch much more than any bone can. It opens the door of possibilities so wide that snakes are able to eat prey larger than their whole head. Just like that, Budget's frogs also have a split hyoid bone for the same purpose. The Budget's frog's split hyoid bone allows them to rapidly expand their mouth to fit prey of surprising sizes, even Pac-Man frogs. But it's also quite convenient for tadpoles, since the rapid expansion and shrinking of their mouths allows them to suck in large volumes of water and, by extension, fish. Tadpoles and adults alike have the same voracious appetite, helped not only by their mobility granted by the split hyoids, as well as the two large fangs protruding out of their lower jaw, as well as their stomach coming fully formed right when they leave the egg. Usually a tadpole comes out with a rudimentary stomach. It's super slow and super tiny, very inefficient. But Budget's frog tadpoles come out extremely hungry. They want to take on big prey ASAP. So they developed a big stomach. But that's not all they developed to be exceptional. Their faces alone are absolutely perfect engineering from hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. I'm not even kidding. Look at the way their face curves outward, with nostrils and eyes close together at the very top, so when they submerge a majority of their body on the bottom of shallow pools, they can still breathe and see. It's perfect. They use this at night as nocturnal ambush predators who lunge at other frogs, large insects, snails, and sometimes will just straight up cannibalize one another, which is actually super rare in frogs. Although cannibalism is rare, their ambush strategy isn't. They might have perfected it, but it's a quite common approach, especially in their little corner of the world, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Argentina. Their favorite locale seems to be the Chaco region, where they get plenty of both sun and water, but not too much. When it's in excess, they burrow below the surface and aestivate, or slow down their body processes to sleep through the hot and dry season of Gran Chaco. For their aestivation, they shroud themselves in a cocoon of shedded skin to maintain a consistent moisture. Then, when it rains, they come out again, knowing that the rain marks the end of the dry season. Budget's frogs, with their scientific name of Lepidobatrachus laevis, also hold the names of, in Castilian Spanish, Esquerzo de agua, in Guarani, which is the language of people indigenous to Central South America, kukurú-chiní. The last name, of course, translates to a toad that shrieks. And yes, they do shriek. Boy, do they ever. They also went somewhat viral for their video, in which they demonstrated, quite skillfully might I add, their little defense mechanism. They puff up their sides to appear larger and shriek, showing off their two little fangs. I know this might be hard, but try for a second to imagine how this could be scary for a predator. Let's say you're a coati, nasua. You're walking around, as you do, eyes peeled for a prey item of some kind, and then you see a shape in the water of a small temporary pool. It looks like a frog. Perfect. You run towards the pool, hop right in front of it. Right as you open your mouth to grab the frog, you hear a foreign sound. A shriek. You flinch, look over your shoulder, nothing. Look in front, you see the frog. It's much bigger than it was before, shrieking at you. It's high-pitched and constant, slowly growing in intensity. It's warning you of something. That's all that you know. It's going to do something big, most definitely. Poison? Spikes? Is it alerting other frogs that will come out to get you? You don't want to gamble. It might cost you your entire life. You jump away, far out of its range, until you can't hear that awful shriek anymore. It worked. Aside from natural predation, the Budget's frog is of course haunted by local agriculture, deforestation, and of course the dreaded chytridiomycosis. Well, maybe not in the wild. There has been a total of 1 documented death from the Budget's frog to chytridiomycosis, and it was a captive bred frog, so mayhaps the wild populations are fine. Maybe. Although the IUCN Red List notes their population as slowly decreasing, this is mostly because of their territory also decreasing. Either way, their current population is least concern, so at least there's that. So thank you to the Budget's frog for an interesting morphology that gave me an excuse to learn about hyoid bones and tadpole stomachs. And thank you for your wonderful defense mechanism that you shared with the world. So next time you see a meme about the Budget's frog, now you can think to yourself, they don't know that the Budget's frog has a split hyoid bone that allows them to fit larger prey in their mouth. So that's fun. Check the links below for extended reading and Patreon. Goodbye.